Hi, I'm Carlin Borisenko. In early 2020, I was the knitting Democrat who accidentally went viral on the internet for going to a Trump rally and then left the party. I became the conservative darling, was on all the shows, traveled around the country, and then realized that conservatives were no better than Democrats. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that both political tribes are two sides of the same coin. But it wasn't all bad. On my journey, I became obsessed with understanding the woke ideology and the culture war. I broke the story of the city of Seattle doing segregated training with its employees.
How bad has this stuff become? The city of Seattle has now put out, I'm not kidding you, this is according to Dr. Carolyn Borisenko, who's an organizational psychologist. The city of Seattle asked its white employees to voluntarily spend a day off in a training about their internalized racial superiority.
I broke the story that led to the first ever federal lawsuit against critical race theory in the schools. I broke the Coke Be Less White story, one of the biggest anti-woke stories of all time. It got over 30 million views. Coca-Cola's corporate headquarters even had to change their outgoing voicemail.
Throughout the past few days, you may have seen inaccurate reporting on the content of our recently launched diversity, equity, and inclusion training program.
I exposed the schools in Burlington, Vermont for grooming middle school children live on the internet. They called me an unwoke cult leader for that. And the Vermont Human Rights Commission slandered me publicly as being a hate channel. I even got called a hero in Breitbart for exposing that the Washington Post was writing a hit piece on Christopher Rufo. I have broken story after story after story about what's going on in the public schools, from Cambridge, Massachusetts, to autistic sex education, to the Department of Education in Michigan, literally training teachers all over the state how to groom children. I wrote a book called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. I host a podcast all about fighting back, and I'm downloading all of my knowledge to you on my Substack, carlin.substack.com. The world is a crazy place. We are literally surrounded by cults on all sides. On this show, we're going to do a deep dive into all aspects of the culture war, and I will show you the dark, dystopian underbellies on both sides. Here are the commitments I'll make to you. I will always tell you the truth. I will always bring you receipts. And if you stick with me, I promise you will see the world differently. Welcome to the cult. Please mount that like button for me and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Well, hello, everyone. It is never a boring day. You know, you think you're going to have a boring day. It's just a Thursday. I don't really normally have meetings on Thursday. I was ready for a nice quiet day where I could get work done and maybe get a few things up on the Substack and maybe edit the socialism training that I did last night into clips for everyone. But no. The moment you think you're going to have a quiet day is the moment that God winks at you and says, no, you don't get that today. You don't get it today. Because today, about an hour and a half ago, I got dropped in my lap one of the more shocking stories that I've seen in a while. And I'm the only one that has it. Well, no, now the world has it because I put it out on Twitter. So now we'll begin the fun process of seeing just how many conservative journalists and influencers steal my journalism and present it as their own, because I am the only one besides Gabrielle Clark that had the story that we're going to talk about today. And I know that because I got it from Gabrielle Clark. Because the story that we're going to cover, and we're going to do some other stuff too, but the story that we're going to cover is up on my Substack right now, and it's on Twitter as well. The state of Montana has kidnapped a teenager to take her out of state and put her in a mental health facility where they are currently transitioning her gender to subvert both the will of the parents and of Montana state law. Chris, I strongly doubt that Tim's going to mention it later, but Cassandra McDonald knows about it, and I know that because I sent it to her, and she was one of the first people to share it on Twitter. So it's not as though the team over at Timcast doesn't know about this story. They do know about it, but I strongly, strongly doubt you're going to see it show up on Timcast because he hates me and he refuses to cover any of the things that I do because Tim, the problem with Tim is Tim believes the quartering is going to save us all and the quartering is the best activist in the history of activists. And he just doesn't listen to other people because the quartering is just amazing. And that's who Tim wants to be best friends with. And that's the only activist that Tim supports. And so I wouldn't expect to see this story on his show later, even though Cassandra's on my team, man. Cassandra and I are cool. But Tim and I are not cool. So I strongly doubt that's going to show up. But guys, I have to say, like, I've seen a lot of stuff. And when I got sent this video a little while ago, my jaw absolutely dropped. And so we're going to watch this video. And by the way, the video that I have, the judge in Montana told the family to remove the video from the internet. We're not even supposed to see this video. The only reason that I have the video is a friend of the family sent it to Gabrielle Clark of Affirming Reality. Gabs has a consulting company and a coaching company called Affirming Reality, where she helps parents that have had their kids sucked into gender ideology to get their kids back. And so then Gabs sent the video to me, and then I put the video on the internet because I don't have any order from any Montana state judge saying that I can't show the video on the internet. Yep, bot says I checked where they posted it on YouTube and it's been removed by the uploader. Well, I have it, and now it's posted on Twitter, and now it's posted on my Substack, and it's about to be shown on this YouTube video, and ain't nothing no one can do about it. Nothing no one can do about it. Because if the judge in Montana wants to support the kidnapping of a child to transition their gender in another state, I guess that judge is more than welcome to do that, even though it subverts Montana state law and all common sense. But I live in New Hampshire. I don't live in Montana. So I will show the video if I want to. And, you know, First Amendment, baby, ain't nothing they can do about it. So that is what, excuse me, that is what we are going to cover today. And I have a couple other things as well, but this is the main story. And so sit back, kick up your feet. And guys, if you are on Twitter, actually, let me get this up. I should have gotten this up. Another thing I should have done before I started the stream. Hang on. I want to make sure I'm not showing you something I don't want you to see. If you are on the Twitters, I would like you to help me share this story, please, and thank you. And I'm going to put the link in the chat. There it is in the chat on YouTube, and I will get it in the chat over on Rumble, because I would like to make this story go as viral as possible, because F these people, not the parents in the video, but F the people who are doing this, because this isn't cool. And I'm going to tell you what, too. Hang on. I'm going to tell you what. I hear all the time from conservatives. I hear all the time, oh, Carlin, you don't need to worry about that. I live in a red state. They don't do that stuff here. Guys, there are very few states that are redder than Montana. Montana literally has state laws against the gender transition of minors. And in this case, we have state employees purposefully subverting the law to remove the child from the state to another state where they don't have laws against the forceful transit, not even forceful, against just the like, this is conversion therapy. Can we just be honest about this? This is conversion therapy that's being done on this girl, and this girl has mental health problems to begin with that are not being treated because the hospital, the doctors, and child protective services are more interested in transing this child against the wishes of her parents and Montana state law than they are in actually treating the mental health problems of the child. No, they didn't bring her to California. Do you know what state they brought her to? Possibly one of the reddest states in the country, Wyoming. They brought her to Wyoming. The gender transition conversion therapy is currently happening to this girl in Wyoming. So don't tell me this can't happen in red states. Don't tell me the judges and the legal system will protect you. I have been trying to explain this to you guys for over a year now. I have been screaming about this. They are not going to protect you. You have to protect yourselves, and you have to protect your kids. So that's what we're going to do today, guys. We're going to watch this video and we're going to talk about it. And I have a couple other things I might want to talk about too, but I don't know how much beyond this video we're really going to get for today. And that's going to be the way it goes. So guys, please mount the like button for me. Please share this on Twitter. Share this. I also have the article up on the Substack. You can share it by going to Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. And this article has all the same information as the Twitter stuff does. So the information is the same. It just, not everyone is on Twitter. So that's the way it goes. And a couple other orders of business before we get started. As you're going over to my Substack, which again is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com, to share this article out, please make sure you subscribe to the Substack. It's free. You can subscribe for free. You will be one of the first to know when I have new news stories or new journalism that I've done, or scoops like this that you ain't going to see anywhere else until the conservative influencers start stealing my journalism again. But if you want to support the work I'm doing and keep me in business, please sign up for $8 a month or $80 a year. I am completely 100% funded by you. Guys, this week we got some good news. The Los Angeles Times laid off like 150 people. Taylor Lorenz did a whole cry video in which she was talking about the downfall of traditional journalism and how the journalists don't know how to use social media, and so they need traditional journalism to prop them up. Well, I'm sorry, guys, but independent platforms like this one are the only way that you're ever going to get told the truth. The only way. Because there's people like me that are scrounging around looking for stories like this, going into the weeds of the internet, like tracking stuff down that the mainstream media will never tell you about. And the only reason that I have the time to do this, because when you are supporting my work, what you're supporting is my time. The only reason I have time to do this is I am 100% completely grassroots funded by you. And I only share stories that matter. I don't share clickbait nonsense. I don't share stuff that's going to outrage you. I share nuanced stories that are entirely developed from primary source information so that you can see for yourself what's going on and you can decide what you think about it. It is not my job to tell you what to think. It is not my job to tell you how to live your life. It is not my job to tell you how to parent your kids. But I'll show you what's going on. And I'll give you the best advice that I can to say, I think you should probably take your kids out of public school because they are attacking your parental rights on every single level. I think that would be a good idea. But at the end of the day, you have to decide for yourself what you do with the information I give you. The only thing I ask is that if you do support my work and you want me to keep doing it, please consider subscribing on the Substack. Again, $8 a month, $80 a year. And if you would prefer to make a one-time gift, you can head over to my main website, which is activelyunwoke.com/support. And there, right up at the top, you can make a one-time gift through Stripe. Has some other ways you can support my work as well. But my strong preferences are either a monthly or annual donation through my Substack, or a one-time gift, or you can buy merch in my Unwoke art store. We're not going to talk about that today. But those are the primary ways that I prefer you support my work, and I really, really do appreciate it. I also want to remind people that last night I did a 2-hour class about how to speak socialist, and I have to say I'm pretty happy with it. I think it went pretty well. And so if you missed out on the opportunity to see that class, not only did I add it to my YouTube and Rumble channel today, so you can watch it on demand there, you can also head over to the Substack and watch the video on demand there. You can get access to the slides, you can get the downloads. And my big ask, again, guys, if you appreciate my work, make sure you're supporting it financially, because I can't do this if I don't have the time to do it. And make sure you're sharing this. This is a presentation, and this is a course that I want to develop over the next year to be able to teach normal people how to understand the language of the left. And I promise you, people who have learned how to speak socialist with me, they're not surprised about this. Because one of the main things we talk about when we're talking about socialism is we talk about how part of their strategy is explicitly designed to undermine the nuclear family, and how they're doing that is they're purposefully trying to undermine parental rights, and the main way they're doing that is through gender ideology, which is exactly what this story is about. This story about the state of Montana kidnapping a teenage girl in order to transition her gender in another state against the wishes of the parents and against Montana state law is completely predictable if you understand exactly how the socialist left is operating, that they are using gender ideology to completely subvert parental rights, and they are purposefully putting policies and laws in place in order to do that, because they're trying to undermine the nuclear family, because they need to destroy the nuclear family in order to abolish capitalism, which is really their goal, because they believe that if they cannot abolish capitalism without abolishing the nuclear family, because the nuclear family is the literal social reproduction factory for capitalism. And if you don't understand what I just said, then the first thing you need to do is head over to the Substack and take the on-demand class, How to Speak Socialist, which is available right now. All right, let's jump into this. And what I want to do is we're actually going to watch the video on my Substack. Just need to set up the sound. And you're going to hear from these parents yourself. And they're going to tell you what exactly happened. And we're going to talk about it. Let's watch.
My name is Todd Kolstad. I'm a father, husband, and business owner. I was born in Glasgow, Montana, and have lived in Montana much of my life. I have 5 children from a previous marriage. One was over 18, one chose to live with his birth mother in Canada, and I had custody of the other 3. I'm also a United States Air Force veteran.
So this is important. This is the birth father of the child. This is the stepmother of the child. And the state is going to use this against them.
Having served during the Gulf War with the 12th Tactical Fighter Squadron based in Okinawa, Japan. Our hope by releasing this statement is to help other families avoid the heartache and pain that our family has endured over the last 5 months. Our 14-year-old daughter has struggled for quite some time in school from bullying. We have had many meetings over the years with the school systems trying to address these issues. We even moved from Flathead County in West Montana to a much smaller town in Valley County in East Montana, hoping that this will give our daughter a fresh start in a new school system and new environment. On August 18th, 2023, we received a call at 1:48 from our local city police. We were informed that our 14-year-old daughter was texting a friend that she had met at a school track meet, saying she wanted to kill herself. It should be noted our daughter had only met this child once face-to-face several months prior and had only phone conversations with her ever since. We took this threat seriously and spoke to our daughter. However, we knew she was struggling with anxiety since school was about to start on Monday. She was also very angry with us because we told her she needed to put her 2-week notice in at her summer job so she could focus on starting the 9th grade. At 7:40 p.m., a lady by the name of Cindy from Child Protective Services showed up at our home, saying that the police officer that called earlier said he could not lay eyes on the child or make contact with her directly, even though this officer never asked to come to our home or speak to our daughter. We allowed Cindy.
So I want to emphasize what just happened. The child, like the police came to check on the child, or they called to check on the child because the child was having mental health problems. Okay. The police never asked to see the child and instead called Child Protective Services, who then showed up at their door. Guys, this can happen to anyone.
Into our home, showing her around. My wife was making dinner as we had a late lunch. It's noted in the CPS report that our home was clean, well stocked with food.
I also want to point out, these people probably trusted that the process would protect them. This is something I hear from conservatives all the time, that we just have to let due process play out and there's procedures. And they probably trusted that if they just let the nice lady from Child Protective Services in and showed them around and showed them everything was okay, that logic and reason would prevail, because these people think they're in a red state and the system is going to protect them. But what they don't know is the system has been completely subverted by leftists who are doing everything they can to try to undermine parental rights. Never assume the government is on your side, guys. Never assume that Child Protective Services is going to be rational about the situation. Never assume that people work like in the system are there to serve you. They are not there to serve you. You need to always treat them like the enemy. Always treat them with suspicion. Don't go, I'm not saying be rude or anything like that, but the government is not your friend, and I don't care if you are in a red state or not.
And with no immediate dangers. Cindy stated she wanted to speak to our daughter alone. We allowed this given we knew our daughter was safe, but we also know our daughter has had issues with telling lies for quite some time, and as such, we made Cindy aware of that concern. We allowed them to speak on the porch, also calling a family friend to come to our house as a third-party witness. After about 10 minutes, my wife and I went outside to be told our daughter had drank toilet bowl cleaner at about 3 p.m. and had also taken an ibuprofen overdose in an attempt to take her life. We could not believe this, as my wife had been working in the kitchen in her makeshift office all day where pills and cleaning agents were kept. Neither of us saw our daughter go in there, but out of concern for her safety, we agreed she needed to go to the hospital. She also did not have any signs of ingesting any harsh chemicals, such as a burnt mouth, burnt esophagus, or an upset stomach. We later found out she did not have any ibuprofen or any other chemicals in her system from a blood test taken at the hospital that night.
Okay, so when Child Protective Services showed up, the daughter, who is probably does need some mental health, services, the daughter who has been repeatedly lying told Child Protective Services that she just tried to off herself by taking ibuprofen and drinking toilet bowl cleaner. However, there was no evidence that this actually happened, and the parents actually warned CPS that she's been lying a lot lately, but they took her to the hospital anyway, and there was no evidence that she actually tried to do this.
Once at the hospital, our daughter began demanding that she be called Leo, he, and him. We explained that this is in her history, but not something we would agree to as her parents.
So the daughter orchestrated all of this in order to get herself into an environment where she told people, call me Leo, and use he, him pronouns. probably because she had already tried to do this, probably because the school taught her how to do this. I'm just like, I don't know if that's the case, but that usually is how this works out. The parents said, no, you're not transitioning your gender. We are not using the names and the pronouns, and we don't want other people to use them either. So the daughter orchestrated this situation as probably some revenge against the parents for not allowing the social gender transition to take place. Now let's hear how the hospital reacted to this. And remember, they're in Montana. Montana does not allow gender transition for minors.
The hospital staff ignored our request, as did Child Protective Services. Our daughter was admitted to the hospital for observations. My wife was mostly at the hospital over the next 5 days, and here are some of the events that transpired.
My name is Krista Kolstad, and I've been in my daughter's life since she was about 7 years old when I married Todd in 2017. She's Todd's youngest child and has always resided with us as a family. Over the years, I've built a loving, supporting relationship with our daughter. She's always referred to me as mom, even though she's not my biological child. I've always loved her, supported her, and made sacrifices for her. The following is a list of events that happened at the hospital, causing us to voice our concern to hospital management and staff, as well as Cindy from CPS. The hospital continued to call our daughter Leo, even though she's a minor, and after I stated it's against our wishes, our religion, and our core family values. The hospital told me to call their lawyer if I have an issue, as they will do what the patient tells them.
Hang on, I want to take a pause for this super chat from Rottweiler. This is the scary thing. Parents can't trust anyone. CPS, schools, and medical personnel are compromised, and it doesn't matter if they're in a red state. I'm going to say this again. It does not matter if you are in a red state. Stop trusting the government. Stop believing that these people are there to help you. They are not there to help you guys. They are not your friends. The process will not protect you. You have got to start realizing this, or you could be exactly like this family, and that is not an exaggeration. This could happen to anyone. I just want to do a quick thank you, too, to Benjamin Jackson, who has gifted 5 channel memberships. I really appreciate it, Benjamin. Thank you so much for being a valued member of the channel.
I said to them, according to State Bill 99, they may not, under the law, provide transgender care nor transition our child. Their response was, they are not providing surgery or hormones, so they're operating in the gray area of the law. I further explained
Listen to that.
my understanding of the law.
Listen to that. Montana has a law. This is how the left is going to subvert the laws, guys. Because again, I know a lot of you live in states, and especially like places like Ohio. Ohio just signed in a ban on gender transition surgery for minors, which is good because the abortion constitutional measure that passed in November allowed all of that. And so it's good that they fixed that. But I really want you guys to pay attention to this. I've tried to explain to you how the left is always several steps ahead. They're several steps ahead of the anti-CRT laws in schools. They are actively subverting the anti-CRT laws in schools every single day, including in Florida. Woke nonsense and critical race theory is still taught in schools in Florida, even though Ron DeSantis brags about signing a law against it. I have evidence of that. The left is always 3 steps ahead. And they're 3 steps ahead on this one too. Because what did they say? It doesn't matter if Montana has banned gender transition for minors because that's just medical transition. It doesn't mean social transition. And guess what, guys? And I covered this a while ago. The AMA, the American Medical Association, has been overtaken by gender ideology for years and years and years. Gender ideology is now required as part of medical education and professional development for doctors. You cannot become a doctor in this country right now without being schooled in both critical race theory and gender ideology. That is the American Medical Association standard. And so what did the hospital do? The hospital said, we're not giving your daughter hormones. We're just calling her by a boy's name and using boy pronouns because she has the right to feel comfortable and she has the right to, or excuse me, he has the right to feel comfortable and he has the right to feel loved. And we're going to go by the wishes of the patient. And you, stepmom and dad, are not the patient. Your son is the patient. And so we're going to respect the son's wishes. If you think that laws are going to protect you from having your kids socially transitioned, you're seeing evidence right now that it doesn't, because they just find a way to get around the laws. Does everyone understand how this works, guys? Yeah, exactly. Do you prefer a trans son or a dead daughter? We've seen training where they said this. I took a training funded by Orange County, California's government earlier this week, in which they literally said to me, would you prefer a trans child or a dead child? I have it on video. I posted it on the Substack and on, I think I did a video about it on the channel. They literally do this. I want to thank Terry for becoming a YouTube channel member. Thank you, Terry. I appreciate it.
Was a minor is a minor, and there's no difference between a 4-year-old or a 14-year-old. And we prefer she be called by her birth name. The hospital put our daughter on a 24-hour supervision because this was a suicide threat. The hospital placed an aide outside her door who began talking about having top surgery and how she identified as non-binary. I objected and reported as inappropriate to the doctor on duty. At that point, I was told, why are you not more concerned that your daughter is trying to harm herself than what the aide is talking about? We had never been in a situation like this before and continue to remind everyone.
So did you hear the trick they pulled? When the parents were like, stop calling her by the boy's name and the boy's pronouns, the nurse said, why aren't you concerned about your child's mental health? Why aren't you more concerned about the fact that your daughter just tried to off herself, which didn't actually really happen? Why aren't you more concerned about the fact that she's trying to hurt herself than you are about the pronouns? The pronouns don't matter. What matters is she tried to hurt herself. So we're going to use the pronouns that the patient wants us to use, because you really shouldn't be worried about the pronouns. You should be worried about the fact that they tried to hurt themselves.
We wanted what was best for our daughter and only wanted her mental health needs met. The following incidents also happened at the hospital that I told both Cindy and the doctor on duty I was very unhappy about. An RN rolled her eyes and referred to me as just the stepmom. Then, when I asked the nurse to call our daughter by her given name, she sighed loudly and rolled her eyes again. When lunch came, I suggested to our daughter she eat something healthy on her tray. The RN looked at me and yelled down the hallway, "Get this young man a banana split dessert." As time went on, many of the CNAs began to refer to me as just the stepmom and continued to roll their eyes at me whenever I spoke or asked any questions regarding my child's care. A pregnant aide sat watch for our daughter several times, and each time she told me I should be more respectful of her wishes to be referred to as a male and be called Leo. We felt this was undermining her parental rights as she said this in front of our child each time.
So now the hospital has stationed someone with the child who is reinforcing the male name and the male pronouns and telling the parents in front of the child, you really should be more respectful of your son's wishes to be called Leo and have he, him pronouns. And that person, I believe they say this in the video, is also non-binary. Of course, because they always are.
On Sunday, August 20th, when I arrived at the hospital, the vice president of the hospital was stationed outside of our daughter's room. I later found out he was the vice president of human resources, not the entire hospital. When I expressed concern that our daughter was being given everything she wants and that they are reinforcing her bad behavior. Example, there was no school, meals were cooked whenever she wanted, whatever she wanted to order. There was no bedtime, and she was allowed to watch all the TV she wanted. The doctor on duty again told me I need to be more concerned about my daughter trying to hurt herself and not what she's eating or watching on TV. When I asked that all the staff only call our daughter by her birth name and please not to use any nicknames, the hospital staff continued to roll their eyes at me and tell me I needed to respect our daughter's wishes. Again, this was undermining our parental authority in front of my daughter.
What you guys need to understand is that the reason that the hospital staff is rolling their eyes every time the parents make a request of them is because the entire hospital staff has probably been trained in gender ideology. It's probably part of their professional development. They either had to do it in medical school or nursing school, or they're probably getting it through the hospital itself right now. I would be interested to look at the hospital's professional development plan. What are they spending money on? That will tell you what training they're getting.
When I said anything someone did not like or disagreed with, I was told, "Why are you not more concerned about your daughter's mental health?" Our daughter was allowed to make phone calls to friends, including the young lady she told she was going to kill herself to. When I expressed my concerns that she's a minor and that her father and I need to be asked if she can call anyone except family, I was told, "We'll do what makes our patient comfortable." I had very open communication with the hospital as well as Cindy from CPS. My husband and I let them know we agreed our daughter needed to go to an inpatient facility and counseling. We were told there may be a facility in Wyoming. I explained we had concerns with Wyoming, and it was our understanding that Wyoming has no laws against minors being given hormones or surgery without parental consent. We stated this as soon as Wyoming was brought up in our daughter's hospital
Appreciate it.
on August
Thank you.
19th. We had looked online on our phones to see what laws were in Wyoming regarding transgender care. Cindy from CPS said to us, "Well, I'm sure we will find a Montana facility, so this isn't an issue, and we can talk more about Wyoming if we have to cross that bridge." Cindy and the on-duty doctor agreed we would try to find a Montana facility. We expressed we preferred Billings as we currently go there often for medical care, but we were open to any of the 6 Montana facilities that treat children. On the night of August 22nd, 2023, we received a phone call from the hospital saying a bed had opened up in Wyoming and our daughter needed to go. We were confused because early in the day we were told she was next in line for a bed in Billings. My husband and I were not told.
So think about that. There are 6 inpatient facilities in Montana where there are laws against transitioning gender for minors. They were one bed away from getting into the one they wanted, which was convenient for the family because it was in Billings and they went there anyway. They were like next on the list to get into that one. And then a bed opened at this Wyoming facility. And then all of a sudden, instead of just waiting for the Billings one, it's an emergency to get the child out of Montana and into Wyoming. Gee, I wonder why that is.
The name of the facility, only that we had to accept the bed. We stated we had some concerns regarding Wyoming state laws and how they were different than Montana state laws, and further questions we needed answered before agreeing to Wyoming. Within 15 minutes, Cindy from CPS showed up at our house with the police, serving us with papers removing our daughter from our care, stating we were refusing treatment.
Because the parents asked questions and they said, "We'd really prefer to have her in this one that's near our house," Child Protective Services shows up with papers to take away their kid and their parental rights. Do you guys see how quick that happened? It was like, boom. Oh, you don't want your child going out of state where we can transition her gender? Okay, we're taking her anyway. We're taking her anyway. You don't get a say anymore. Now, I know people expect this stuff to happen in California. I know people expect this stuff to happen in New York. I know people expect this stuff to happen in places like Minnesota. I know people expect this stuff to happen in places like Colorado or Washington or Oregon or any of the other blue states. But you guys don't expect this crap to happen in Montana.
This is untrue. We simply asked that she stay in the state of Montana and wanted our questions answered by anyone in the system before agreeing to move her to Wyoming. We were told we were not allowed to see or speak to our daughter at that time. Child Protective Services could have avoided this incident by simply communicating with us regarding the out-of-state procedures for a minor going to a care facility. The reason stated for her removal was parents are unable or refusing to provide medical care. I met with Child Protective Services on Friday, August 25th in their office and provided 6 years worth of medical records and insurance information, proving their reason is an untrue statement.
But Child Protective Services doesn't care about that. Again, these parents probably were still like, we're in a conservative state. The government's not going to screw us over. If we just show them that we have provided medical care all along and that nothing is wrong, then they'll obviously fix this. This is just a mistake. No, it's not a mistake.
On Wednesday, August 23rd, our daughter was transported out of state by a CPS worker to the Wyoming facility. Court dates were set into motion and we were assigned public defenders at that time. She was allowed to text her sister, but also call people who were not part of her family from the staff person's cell phone. She was also allowed to stop at her summer job and speak to her friends, stating she was being taken away to Wyoming because she was crazy and was trying to kill herself. This was a huge lapse in judgment on CPS and a miscarriage of law to our daughter, who is only 14 years old.
It wasn't a lapse in judgment. If you guys think this is the last one of these that we're going to hear, there are already other states that are trying to do this. There are states with laws on the books telling them they can do this. This is not a mistake. This is not a lapse in judgment. This is what they're trying to do to subvert parental rights in this country, to destroy the nuclear family. You can find the video on my Twitter. You can also find it on my Substack, carlin.substack.com. Either of those places should work just fine. You can share the Substack out on any platform you want. It'll show up just like an article and has all the same information on Twitter. But please, guys, if you are on Twitter, again, I'm going to ask this. Please make sure you retweet this on Twitter. I just put the link in the chat again for people watching on Twitter. Thank you, Chanel, over on Rumble for the Rumble rant. I apologize, I didn't see it earlier. I'm dropping the Twitter link in the chat over there. Chanel over on Rumble says, this is worse than what I learned on number 111. Anyone have any ideas on how to get Vivek Trump people? Only idea I have, a Trump rally's giant poster. Carlin, yeah, I don't know. I can probably DM it to Vivek. He follows me on Twitter, so I can probably DM it to him. I know I've seen people tagging him with it, but guys, just share it out. Tag as many people as you want. Make sure people know. You're not seeing the link because you're watching on X, but if you literally just go to my X page, you will find it on X. But I can only post it in so many places at once. Okay, but you're on my X page, so you should be able to find it there.
What if, when she's older, this incident is behind her and she's in a good place mentally? This is a very small town that we live in, and we may have just branded her as the child who went crazy and tried to kill herself. Also concerning is that her mental state had deteriorated to the point of her needing inpatient care, but yet she was allowed to go in public and visit with her friends. While at our local hospital, our daughter was not given surgery or hormones, but she was allowed to have men's products against our wishes, was allowed to make calls sharing her health information, and be called names other than her birth name. By placing an aide outside her door who kept talking about top surgery and being non-binary, and by other aides belittling us as her parents, the hospital care staff contributed to the further decline in our daughter's mental health and caused the breakdown of our family unit. Our daughter spent about a month in Wyoming at an inpatient facility. On Monday, September 25th, she was transferred to a group home in Billings, Montana for further medical care until she's mentally stable. Since August, we have been in a legal custody battle with Child Protective Services. Our public defenders have advised us to just play nice and go along with Child Protective Services recommendations and allow our daughters to remain in the group home setting without causing any fights. We have followed their advice for the last few months, and now our rights are being completely stripped away. As on this Friday, January 19th.
See, I just want to point this out. They were assigned a public defender. Gabrielle Clark is working on finding them another lawyer right now. But they were assigned a public defender who said, just go along with it. Don't cause problems. Don't push back. Just go along with what the state wants and it'll all be okay. And they followed the advice because they think that the system is going to help them. But it did not help them because now they're about to lose parental rights entirely.
We are set to lose custody of our daughter because allowing her to be transgender is in her therapeutic interest, and we are not following recommended therapy. We have endured false accusations from Child Protective Services that my husband is an alcoholic who drinks daily, that I am verbally abusive to our daughter. It should be noted that none of these incidents have been proven. We have no criminal records, nor were there any witnesses who have seen us fighting, being drunks, or being abusive in any way to the 3 children that we have had in our parental care. We have provided character witnesses.
If they're abusive, then why are their other children still with them? If they're really abusive, if the state really thinks they're abusive, then why are the other 3 children still living with them? Because the state doesn't think they're abusive. The state knows it's not true. There's no evidence that it's true, but they have to say whatever they need to cover their asses.
Letters, as well as statements from an employee who had lived in our home last summer who have never seen or witnessed any of this adverse behavior.
Since our daughter has been in the group home setting, we have had numerous meetings regarding our wishes for her not to be referred to as a boy. Our wishes are for the program to be therapy-based and allow our family unit to continue to have the right to parent our daughter as we see fit to maintain her care. Our daughter is only referred to there as Leo, he, and him.
So now the daughter is in the group home back in Montana. Remember, Montana does not allow gender transition for minors, but in the group home in Montana, they are explicitly disregarding the wishes of the parents that are inconvenient to them and using the boy name and the boy pronouns with the daughter.
She has been allowed to shave her head, wears only men's clothes, wears a chest binder, and uses men's hygiene products. She attends a therapeutic school program and is in all boy groups. She has been allowed to attend a church that no one will name. She has had numerous doctor appointments for birth control therapy. So she no longer has a menstrual cycle. One of her daily goals set by the group home therapist is, I will accept and embrace my chosen gender 80% of the time.
The therapist in Montana is practicing gender affirmation surgery and getting the 14-year-old child that they've put on birth control, not because she's having sex, but because they want to stop her period. Because if you just take birth control every day, it'll stop your period. So they put her on that, and she just takes birth control every day so she doesn't have a period. And then she's going to therapy at the group home where the therapist is giving her affirmations to do about saying that she's going to be the boy gender 80% of the time. This is brainwashing, guys. Affirmations are you're brainwashing yourself when you do affirmations. That's the purpose of this. You get someone to repeat something over and over and over and over and over again, they're going to believe it's true.
This is transgendering our child against our wishes. Our rights have been so stripped and limited that we're not even allowed to know what dentist she recently saw. She was given some flu shots without our consent. Child Protective Services continues to say, oh, so sorry, it was an oversight, you were not told. When we ask questions, we're labeled as difficult to work with, when all we want to know is what medical treatment is being provided and by what doctors, what medication she's being given, as well as weekly updates, daily if there's an issue. On December 4th, 2023, we had a court date. The judge told us we could look for another placement for our daughter that was more in line with our religious beliefs and our core values. This is an impossible task, as there's no programs that take private insurance, so our choices have been to remortgage our home to pay for a program or accept that she must stay where she is. I love my daughter. She's my youngest. I love her unconditionally and only want her to refrain from making any decisions until she has the maturity and life experiences to understand what the consequences are for her actions. We have asked that treatment explore why someone would dislike themselves so much that they would want to change their entire being. Why are we not looking at the past trauma and losses that this young lady has seen in her life?
And this is exactly the point, guys. What they teach therapists to do, and we've seen the training that proves this, is we saw this again. I did a training sponsored by the government of Orange County, California, in which I explicitly asked them, if my child comes home and says they're a different gender, should I challenge them? Should I push back at all? And the unequivocal answer was no. What therapists are taught now is that you do not challenge kids when they say they are a different gender. The only thing that you are allowed to do is to affirm that they are the gender that they say they are, no matter what. No matter, they could say they're a deer. They could say they're an alien. They could say they're a fairy. There are literally people who identify as fairies. And the job of the therapist is to affirm, yes, you really are a fairy. You really are an alien. You really are a deer. I'm not making this up. I have documented it on my Substack. And this is throughout the entire field of mental health. This is not just one therapist. This is throughout the entire field, sanctioned by the American Psychological Association and the American Psychiatric Association.
Love our daughter beyond words. We are not naive and understand that we have an adolescent girl who has struggled with mental health issues most of her life on our hands. The system has not helped our daughter. Instead, the system has taught her how to weaponize the system itself to receive what she wants. We do not believe the system has tried to treat her mental health issues, instead has forcefully focused on the transgender component and on forcing us into doing things against our family values, religious beliefs, and core moral beliefs. Much damage has already been done to our family. How many families will the system destroy? Is the state of Montana willing to open the door and take every troubled child who is angry with their parents, placing them in group home settings, and violating their rights as caregivers, providers, parents, and morally diminishing and destroying our family units? Our next court date is Friday, January 19th, at which time the court has already decided to remove our parental rights and transfer our daughter to her birth mom, who has been an absent parent for the past 7 years and resides in the country of Canada.
So now the parents who have been taking care of this child basically her entire life are literally getting their parental rights terminated to send the child to live with the mother in Canada who has been absent her entire life. And they've already made this decision. Allison, thank you for the super chat. In the state of Maine, therapists, doctors, etc. are legally obligated to affirm a child's gender. If they do not, they can lose their license. This is serious, guys. If you have kids and you are not taking this seriously, I promise you, what has happened to these parents can happen to any single one of you. Your kid acts out, they say something stupid, maybe they have some mental health issues, which isn't that uncommon today, And all of a sudden, Child Protective Services shows up at your door, takes the child away, and the state starts transitioning their gender. This is serious, guys. There are school districts in which upwards of 40%, 40% of kids identify as, hang on, I think I froze. Hang on, I'm back, I think. Yep. There are school districts in which upwards of 40% of students identify as genderqueer or gender fluid or non-binary or gender non-conforming. That's all over the country. That's not just in blue states. Stop believing the system will protect you from this.
This is a medical kidnapping, and this needs to stop. We currently only have a public defender whose advice has been to play nice. We are running out of time, and we live in a small town with a population of about 3,100 people. If there is any attorney willing to fight for us pro bono, please contact us via email. Thank you for taking a few minutes to listen to our family-shattering story. We sincerely hope that this brings awareness to the destructive transitioning issue and keeps another family from being destroyed. Our hope is that our daughter, who we love very much, does not become a statistic or just another victim of the existing care system. You can reach us at our email, which is krista@gmail.com. KRISTANDTODDKOLSTAD@gmail.com. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So this family was so desperate for help after months and months and months and months of trying to work with the state, trying to work with the system, trying to work with Child Protective Services, trying to work with their state-appointed public defender, that they got so desperate because their parental rights were about to be terminated because they took the advice of the public defender and they just went along with everything and didn't push back, that they now posted a video on the internet like begging for help. Really think about that, guys. They went on with it thinking that the system and the process would protect them. They took the advice that they were given, and this is the situation that they find themselves in. And then the judge forced them to take this video off the internet because the judge put a gag order on them where they're not allowed to talk about it. And again, the only reason I have this video is because a friend of the family contacted my friend, Gabrielle Clark. And if you guys don't know Gabrielle Clark, you should all be following Gabrielle Clark because Gabrielle Clark is a warrior. Gabrielle Clark works with parents to help them when their kids get sucked into gender ideology to get their kids back. She also finds lawyers for parents if they need to sue school districts or things like that. So a friend of the family got in touch with Gabrielle Clark to try to get them a lawyer. They sent her the video. Gab sent the video to me, and that's why I have it. So if you are a lawyer and you want to help this family, you're welcome to get in touch with the family directly, or you guys can get in touch with Gabrielle Clark. Again, I can't say enough good things about her. Her and her, where she coaches parents who end up in situations like this. Gabs herself has been in a situation like this. Her daughter was socially transitioned by the schools, and Gabs came up with a parenting program that brought her daughter back, and now she teaches other parents how to bring their kids back through old-fashioned parenting. That's all it is. But the schools are subverting the wills of the parents. The schools are pushing this ideology on kids from the time they're in kindergarten. And it is especially targeting kids with mental health problems, kids with autism, kids who maybe have anxiety, kids with depression. They are particularly prone to this ideology because it explains to them why they're weird. And they say, you know why you don't feel like everyone else? Because you're not the gender that you were born as. And then the kids start socially transitioning, and then they start medically transitioning. That's how that works, guys. So I recommend everyone who needs help like this get in touch with Gabs. She is absolutely the best person doing this in the country today. She has consulted with all sorts of medical experts and mental health experts because Gabs is one of the only people that has actually developed a program to get kids who are socially transitioning to desist from socially transitioning. And if you want to help out this family, they do have a Give, Send, Go. And I will put, and it looks like they've already gotten a couple $100 of donations since I first posted it, which is great. Let's see. I will put the link to the Give, Send, Go in the chat. And you can also find it again if you are watching on X. Go to my Substack, which is carlin.substack.com. And what you will do is you will actually find the articles like right on the main page right now. You can find the link to the Give, Send, Go there if you want. But this is real. We've all seen this stuff developing. We've all seen this stuff percolating up. And this is happening in a red state that has laws against transitioning minors, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because they're going to do what they're going to do. Channel 007 over on Rumble. Thank you for the Rumble rant. They say, please consider a special advisory role in the Trump administration. Well, I would have to be asked. You're uniquely qualified, former lefty, PhD in psychology, organizational specialty, Ukrainian husband from the hellhole USSR. I mean, that all may be true, but he would have to ask me. So let him get in touch and ask me. Guys, I want to just show you a couple of things. And these are stories that I've covered on my Substack before. And again, I want to encourage everyone, please make sure you mount the like button on YouTube or Rumble. Mounting the like button lets YouTube know to recommend this stream to other people. And if there's any stream that people need to see that I do, it's probably this one. So please mount the like button, guys. If you have never mounted the like button before, when I have begged you to mount the like button, please mount the like button for me. But I need everyone to understand that the left is not dicking around when it comes to taking away parental rights. They do things all the time, right out in the open, that are designed to attack parental rights. And I just want to show you a couple of things. This is something that I covered on my Substack back in March of last year. So if you were subscribed to my Substack, you would have already seen this. Okay? This is, check this out. Hang on. There was an entire conference at the University of Connecticut Law School about are parental rights always in the best interest of the child. This is not something that they're just like making up. And this is a strategic initiative to basically eliminate parental rights in this country. And the reason, again, that they're trying to eliminate parental rights is it's an attack on the nuclear family, and the left believes they need to destroy the nuclear family in order to get rid of capitalism. And if you don't understand why they need to get rid of capitalism, you can go back and watch my other content. I explain this all the time. I'm not going to go in depth into that today. But the attacks on the nuclear family are specifically designed to overthrow capitalism so they can usher in their Marxist utopia. And they believe that the nuclear family stands in their way to overthrowing capitalism, which is why we see all these attacks on parental rights. It's specifically to subvert it. Look at this symposium. Are parental rights always in the best interest of the child? March 31st, 2023, at the University of Connecticut. This symposium will explore the complex issues surrounding the role of parental rights in advancing progressive goals, which means destroy the nuclear family, while at the same time examine how parental rights are being used to undermine racial, gender, and LGBTQ equality. These conflicts have come to a head recently in areas of education, gender-affirming care, and family regulation. This discussion will also include how children's interests can and should be represented and whether that is best accomplished through parents. The description of the symposium literally says that perhaps the interests of the children are not best represented through parents. And you can see the schedule for the symposium, parental rights and school curriculum, including panelists from UCLA Law, University of South Carolina Law, and Harvard Law, parental rights and gender affirming care. Oh, what did we just listen to? What did we just listen to? With panelists from Harvard Law, Yale, and GLAD, and parental rights and race and family regulation, including panelists from Southern Methodist University Law, Fordham Law, University of Denver Law, and University of Baltimore Law. You can see the full schedule over on the website. There is also, this is what is this? What is this? This is something from Parents Defending Education. Oh, this is about when a school in Colorado specifically refused to use the name and pronouns that the parents were telling them to use. That's a big issue in Colorado. Colorado's uber woke. I also want to read you this article because, no, I can see it. I can see it. Because, again, this is from April of last year. I also covered this on the Substack. There were a whole mess of articles that came out around the same time period last year in like the New Yorker and the Washington Post and all of these other things that were specifically attacks on parental rights. But I want to read you this article, and I want us to compare it to the situation that we've just listened to in that video. This is called Children Are Not Property, the idea that underlies the right-wing campaign for parents' rights. And this is written by a woman named Sarah Jones, who is a writer for New York Magazine. Train up a child the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it, the book of Proverbs says. To certain right-wing Christians, the concept is simple. A child can be broken or stamped into shape, much like any domesticated animal. Though all parents hope they'll pass their values on to their children, for some, the hope is more of a mandate. My own parents believe that Proverbs is the word of God, and they believe, too, that a righteous upbringing would produce an adult in their image. Who can blame them? The idea that a child should replicate her parents does not only belong to conservative Christianity or any religion at all. A proverb is common wisdom. And lately, this one is hard to escape. Authoritarianism is gospel to modern conservatives. Nowhere is that clearer than the assaults on children. Guys, they are literally calling parental rights an assault on children. The parental rights movement is not new, but is enjoying a resurgence. Adherents say they're protecting children from harm, broadly defined. After an art teacher in Florida charter school showed students a picture of Michelangelo's David, parental complaints forced out the principal. Members of Moms for Liberty called for book bans across the country. Books with LGBT content are at special risk of removal. The architects of state bans on gender-affirming care for minors say falsely that children are at risk. Listen to this. Look at what's in this article. The architects of state bans on gender-affirming care for minors say falsely that children are at risk from predatory physicians and activists. We literally just watched a video from parents who had their kid kidnapped by the state because of predatory physicians and activists. Do you guys see? They're projecting. This is projection. They're telling you in the open what they're doing. A gender cult destroys families, claims conservative commentator Matt Walsh. I'm not going to quote Matt Walsh. I don't care enough to do that. Conservative interest in the child extends beyond a traditional hostility to LGBT people. In March, Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, a Republican, signed a bill into law, etc., 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 complaining. It's possible to draw a line between the remarks, the push for child labor, and the rights attacks on trans children. They're saying that child labor is in the same category as trans children. In each case, conservatives betray a conviction that a child is the property of parents. Because parents own their children, they can dispose of the child as they see fit. They can deny them medical-based care. That's what they're accusing the parents in Montana of doing. They can put a child to work. They can make sure a child is sheltered from the dangers of a serious education. When a child goes hungry, that's because the parent isn't caring for their property. And what a person does with their property is their right. Now, guys, we have covered a lot of abolish the family content on this channel. For those who might be new to me, maybe you're just finding me, I think I've covered more abolish the nuclear family content than anyone on the internet. Where do we get the idea from that children are the private property of their parents? Where does that idea come from? Does that sound familiar with any of the socialist content that we've watched? That children are the private property of their parents, and it is the job of the left to liberate children from being the private property of their parents? Where have we heard that before? We've heard that from our favorite abolish the family socialist, Sophie Lewis. Sophie Lewis. Sophie Lewis. But it's not just Sophie saying that, is it? Because we've heard other people say that too, and the root core of this is the attack on capitalism. Because capitalism is private property ownership. The left wants to eliminate all private property. They want to eliminate all parental rights. And that includes that includes this idea that children are the private property of their parents. And this all goes back to the idea of social reproduction theory. Exactly. Well done. This comes from social reproduction theory, which is the idea that the nuclear household socially reproduces capitalism. So isn't that funny that in an article in New York Magazine, we're seeing ideas from the socialist left about children being the private property of their parents just pop up in the wild. Do you guys think that's a coincidence? I'm going to prove to you it's not a coincidence later in this article. You guys are going to love this. Like any piece of property, a child has value to conservative activists. They are key to a future that conservatives want to win. Parental rights are merely one path to the total capture of state power and the imposition of an authoritarian hierarchy. Socialists hate hierarchy. So it's no surprise that children have long been a fixation to the right wing. And then they go through some examples of that. Taken to extremes, the concept of parental rights can be dangerous and even deadly for children. Oh, hang on. The concept of parental rights can be dangerous or even deadly for children. Excuse me, what? If we have parental rights in this country, you are literally killing your own kids. Proponents like Ferris and Rushdoony before him ignore the basic fact that the home is often no refuge, but a place of domination and abuse. What socialists say is that kids are more likely to be abused in the nuclear household than outside of the nuclear household. And so we just need to abolish the nuclear family entirely because that's where kids are being abused, and parental rights plays into all of that. Do you guys see? State laws passed by conservative Republicans have made LGBTQ children in particular more vulnerable to abuse at home by practically requiring schools to out them. Look at this. This is literally saying that if schools tell parents what names and pronouns their kids are using at school, the school is putting them in physical danger by outing them to their parents. What's the next sentence? The denial of gender-affirming care is another act of violence. The doctors in that video that you heard that we watched before, the reason that they are reinforcing the social transition of the mentally ill child is because they believe and have been trained to believe the denial of gender affirming care is an act of violence. This is being taught in medical school, guys. Yeah, making kids capitalist is abuse. Socialists. Exactly. Far-right activists invent tales of wanton surgeries on minors and irreversible hormone treatments. Oh, they do, huh? They're just invented out of thin air and they never happen? Huh, that's funny. In doing so, they obscure the high suicide rate among LGBT youth who need gender-affirming care as a matter of life or death. Would you rather have a trans child or a dead child? Children who work may be exposed to adult dangers like workplace injury and sexual harassment. In the home and at school, children must fear gun violence in the name of the Second Amendment. Adults who encourage the proliferation of guns, yada, yada, yada. Only the unborn are spared the right's cruelty. Conservatives claim personhood for the fetus who cannot disobey and requires nothing but a womb. The fetus is more valuable than the child because the fetus is a means to an end, the subjugation of women. This is the idea that capitalism created the gender binary, which put women in the household to raise the nuclear family. Channel 007 over on Rumble, thank you for the Rumble rant. A trans child has much higher suicide rate, though. Well, if they're not getting real mental health care, I would imagine that that's true. Once born, a child's value deprecates. The parental right to train the child takes takes precedence over the child's basic rights. There are ways to circumvent a child's established right to an education, as conservatives know. Homeschooling. They're going after homeschooling, guys. Homeschooling laws are so lax in the US that thousands of children have essentially disappeared into an academic void. Guys, I promise you, when the Democrats win in November, and I'm going to say when because I absolutely think the Democrats are going to win everything in November. I'm sorry if that makes you upset, but that's what I believe given the current state of things. When the Democrats win in November, homeschooling is going to be on the chopping block. They are going to throw everything they can at homeschooling, I promise you. So if you don't want that to happen, you guys need to stop dicking around and focusing on winning an election. Even if a child goes to public school, chronic underfunding deprives many children, especially in poor areas. Blah, 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 blah. There is one exception to the right's belief in absolute parental rights: trans-affirming parents. A defiant parent is a threat to the right. They've stepped out of place and must be subdued. This is why I was screaming to high heaven. And conservatives didn't want to hear this. I said over and over again, if you want parental rights for you, then you need to protect parental rights for other people. And people are allowed to fuck up their kids. And I'm sorry if that makes people upset, but if you want to protect parental rights for yourself and for your family and protect your kids, then you need to accept that other parents have parental rights too, and they are allowed to make different decisions than you would make. And you might not agree with them, and you might think they're crazy, and you might think that transitioning their kids is bad, and I would personally agree with you, but that's not the point. You need to worry about yourselves and your children and stop worrying what other parents are doing to their kids, because this focus on what parents are doing with their kids is going to be used against you by the left to say you don't actually believe in parental rights at all. You don't want to let trans-affirming parents have parental rights. You only want parental rights for yourself. And they're right. They're right when they say that, unless you leave other people alone. In this perspective, rights aren't innate. They're determined instead by a person's place in the conservative hierarchy. The opposite view that everyone has rights by virtue of their humanity requires us to change the way we commonly think of children. Liberals aren't immune to the belief that children are property. The mainstreaming fear-mongering over trans youth tells us as much. Yet combating the power of parental rights movement requires an answering conviction in the rights of children. We can see them as people, uniquely vulnerable, yes, but nonetheless people who have independent minds and will develop private lives of their own. Remember all those times that I told you that socialists see children as little adults? They're like Scientologists in this regard, where they see all children as little adults that can make all their own decisions. We can see children as people, uniquely vulnerable, yes, but nevertheless people who have independent minds and will develop private lives of their own. Children are but little adults that can make all their own decisions. There is no way to control a child forever. My parents learned that much. I hid books from them and discovered different ways of thinking through literature and furtive online searching. In relatively short order, wait for it, this is the best part of the article. In relatively short order, I became an atheist and a socialist. Now, you guys already knew the author of this article was a socialist because you guys know socialist language. And all of the language in this article leading up until this point indicated that the person writing the article is a socialist. And then at the end of the article, they literally admit they're a socialist. Do you guys see why learning the language is important? Because they don't always make that admonition, do they? They don't always make that admonition. They don't always tell you flat out, yep, I'm a socialist, but you can tell they're a socialist based on the language that they're using, based on the ideas that they're espousing, because we see this all the time. This article is Socialist 101, but you don't know that if you don't know the language of the left, if you don't know the socialist language. This is why, guys, if you have the opportunity, please head over to my Substack. I know it's a 2-hour class. You can also find it on my YouTube and my Rumble channel if you would like. But please take the time. If you don't go to Socialism Saturday every week, if you don't join us for our midweek streams, please take the time to take the 2-hour on-demand class that I just taught last night about the introduction of the language of the left. We watch clips from far left trainings, so you can see the language for yourself. You can hear the language for yourself. This is what we do on Socialism Saturday every single week. Please, this is completely for free, guys. You don't need to pay money for it. It's on my YouTube channel. It's on my Substack. It's pinned to the top of my Twitter right now. Please take this class. Because when you take this class, you are going to learn how to identify if someone is a socialist before they ever tell you, because it is easy. It is easy once you know the language. In relatively short order, I became an atheist and a socialist, a fate so dire that a former trustee at my evangelical college told me he hoped my parents died before they knew the truth. They did not share his sentiment. If my example means anything, it's this: children are not dogs to train, but adults in formation. They will learn, someday soon, that the future belongs to them. What do they do with the knowledge matters to everyone. Children aren't private property. Look at this. Children, it's not letting me highlight. Why aren't you letting me highlight, browser? Well, good enough. Children aren't private property, but a public responsibility. Remind me, guys, what is the definition of capitalism? Socialists want to abolish capitalism. What is the definition of capitalism? Remind me. Property. Specifically, what kind of property? Private property. how socialists define capitalism is private property ownership, 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 private property, private property. People think that when I say socialists define capitalism as private property ownership, they think that I mean things like their house and their business and their land, and I do mean all those things. I mean things like any business any apartment complex you own as a landlord. I mean things like your business. I mean things like all of those. All of those things are defined as private property. But the thing that people don't understand is defined as private property are your children. Socialists believe your children are private property in our current system. And they believe it is their job to liberate your children from being the private property of the parents so the children can be the public responsibility and raised by the collective. All of these ideas come from somewhere, guys. They all come from the same place. To expand our democratic project, what does democratic mean in the land of socialists? When a socialist says democratic or democracy, what do they mean? Pop quiz. When socialists say democratic, what do they mean? They mean socialism. Every time you hear a leftist say democratic or democracy, they mean socialist. They mean socialist. They mean socialist. They mean socialist. Jenny, you're right about this. They also see your body as private property, so really think about that. So let's change the language of this last sentence then. To expand our socialist project to children is to grant them the security the right seeks to deny them. Education, healthcare, shelter, food. A better America begins with the child. What are the things that socialists want to be free in the socialist utopia? They want all education to be free and public, no private schools, no homeschooling, no charter schools, no church schools. They want all healthcare to be free, universal public healthcare, no private doctors, no private insurance companies. They want housing to be free. They don't want you to own a house. They don't want you to own land. The government will own the land. The government will own the house, and you will be assigned one of the places to live based on how useful you are to the government. And they want all food to be free. They don't even want you to have a private kitchen in your home. They want you to go to the communal area to get your food rations, your 2,000 calories a day. And that's where you're going to get your food, all government provided, of course. Right? Exactly. They don't want any money to exist because everything you need is going to be provided for you by the state. This is an article in New York Magazine from last April. Well, you really shouldn't be because it's not going to just be healthcare. Do you understand this? This is why I say you guys aren't taking this seriously. This is why you're like, I want this free stuff. No, bro. No. Do you really think that's the only thing they're going to do? Do you really think they're just going to stop at that? You're not taking this fucking seriously. You can enjoy a 5-minute timeout and you can think about that. You didn't get banned or anything, but you can think about that on your 5-minute timeout about whether or not they're going to stop with universal health care. I want to acknowledge a couple super chats over on Rumble. Thank you again, Channel 007. Scientifically untrue. This is observed in other mammals, and if they are like little adults, why can't they survive alone? They lack experience and knowledge. Well, duh. Kids are not just little adults. And then Channel 007 also says, translation, no social mobility, no career mobility in communism. You don't even get to pick your job in communism, guys. You will be assigned a job in a field somewhere or an assault mine, depending on how useful you are to the state. You don't get to pick your job. You don't get to quit your job. You either show up every single day to the job that they give you, or you don't eat. Because remember, they're the ones providing your food. They're the ones providing your energy. They're the ones heating your house, providing the gas for your car. If you don't work the job they assign you to work, you don't eat. Are we taking this seriously yet? Or am I still screaming into the sky? Crazy woman waves fist at clouds because no one is taking this seriously. I have a very generous super chat from Allison that I want to acknowledge. Thank you, Allison. I appreciate it. Your webinar is so good. Everyone, please share it everywhere. Guys, again, that is not that one. This one. The How to Speak Socialist webinar. That's what we're talking about right now. Please take the time to watch this. Please come to Socialism Saturday. Please subscribe to the Substack. I will break all this stuff down. There are all sorts of clips on there. Please take the time to learn this. I made this free because I want everyone to learn this, because this is the game changer. If you understand their language, then you will be able to see what they're doing. If you do not understand their language, and most of you do not, if you haven't been following me for a long time and coming to Socialism Saturday and doing the things I tell you to do, I promise you, you don't understand their language. You might think you do. You might think you do, but you don't. And the people in my chat can attest to that, because a lot of them thought that they knew the language too. I thought I knew it too before I learned this. Okay? Back when I wrote my book in 2021, I thought I knew everything too. I really did. And I didn't. And I was wrong. And then I got sent down a deep rabbit hole and I figured it out. Please take the time to do this. Bill says, my last month here has been life-changing. It will change your life. Not always for the better. Because when you learn the language, guys, you see it everywhere. Everything becomes abundantly clear. And I know this is not pleasant. And I know that it's one of those things. I try to make it fun. I really do. I try to make it fun. I try to make it a group activity. I try to bring levity. I try to do all these things because I know this is hard content. It's not something that people want to do. But once you learn it, ain't no going back. Once you become fluent in this, you see what they're doing and you see it showing up every single place in your life. And the most important thing is your kids' schools. You will start to hear your kids' teachers speak socialist. You will start to hear your school administrators speak socialist. In your kids' plays, in your kids' homework, in your kids' lessons, you will see all of the socialism popping up. It will change the way you see everything. And I wish I could make it easier. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible. But if you don't pay attention to this, you don't actually care about solving the problem, and your kids are the ones that are going to pay the price, as we've seen today. Oh, Nude Monk over on Rumble just added your book to my cart. Thank you for fighting. Thank you for picking up my book, Nude Monk. I really do appreciate it. I definitely recommend, in addition to the book is like an introduction, guys. The book is like 101 level stuff. When you get done the book, come and do the socialism class. You can even do the socialism class right now. You can do it side by side with the book. It doesn't really matter. But the book is like 101 level. It's like kindergarten, first grade level. I just wanted to give a good introduction. This is the advanced stuff, and this is the stuff you need now, and this is the stuff that will change your life, and this is the stuff I didn't know when I wrote the book. Because I wrote the book in early 2021. I didn't start learning this until mid-2022, after the book had already come out. Just the way it goes. Everything in the book stands, though. The book, I got a lot of stuff in the book. I got most of the stuff in the book right. So the book is I'm still proud of the book. Anyway, Monica says, it's a good book, though. Get on that. It is a good book. It's a quick read. Quick read. Yup, many conservatives do refuse to see what's actually going on. They refuse to see. Nick, thank you for the super chat. Finished the webinar. Loved it. You go, girl. I do appreciate that, Nick. I do appreciate it. Steven says, since following Carlin for a year, I feel like I read articles with new eyes and a new brain. That's very nice, Steven. Thank you for that. All right, guys, that is all I have. Do I think Vivek understands what's going on? Yeah, I do. Guys, it was no coincidence that Vivek was pushing the nuclear family over and over and over and over again. Vivek has followed my stuff for a while. People on Vivek's team have followed my stuff for a while. They know. He knows who I am. So do I think he understands what's going on? Yeah, I do. Vivek is very smart. And there's a reason that he kept saying the nuclear family is the most effective form of government in the world. Because he knows that they're trying to eliminate the nuclear family, and he knows why they're doing it. Thank you, Allison. I'm on Twitter a lot, and I try to call out that they are socialists. I just don't know whether to call them socialists or Marxists or communists. That's a great question. What I would say is they use those terms interchangeably. So socialists will call themselves literally in the same sentence, socialist, Marxist, communist. They'll say, as socialists, Marxists, communists, we need to do X, Y, B, and Z. They use all three of those terms interchangeably. I call them socialists. That's what I recommend. Sometimes I'll say Marxist, but like, I mean, look at the name of my webinar, How to Speak Socialist. I don't know if that's the right answer, but it's where I've landed. I don't know if it's the academically pure answer because I don't really care. But that's where I've landed. Oh, see, back after your break, and you came back and gave me a super chat. I see this is the type of stuff I appreciate. You are doing good work. Keep it up. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Yup, Vivek also says there are two genders. He does. What irritates socialists the most is when you know their language. They hate me. They hate me. They hate me way more than they hate conservatives. They're like amused by conservatives. They use conservatives to rile up their base, but I promise you, they hate me. Because I show people what they say. I show people what they're talking about. I go into their private trainings and I show people what's going on behind closed doors. And I teach people to understand them. And they can't stand that. Because I don't do things that are flashy or like libs of TikTok, clickbait, outrage porn, like all that stuff. All I do is teach people the language, and I teach people where to look for documents, and I teach people how to interpret information, and I teach people the patterns that show up over and over and over and over and over again. The thing that you can do that will irritate them the most, it doesn't matter if you call them socialist, Marxist, communists, learn their language and then throw the language back at them. That's what irritates them the most. I mean, I would certainly appreciate that. But you don't have to, just use their language. Just use their language back at them. That'll piss them off. Oh, so you're talking about social reproduction theory in which you guys want to eliminate the nuclear family to abolish capitalism. Do I have that right? That's what you want to do, right? You want to queer the nuclear family in order to abolish capitalism because of social reproduction theory. Do I have that right? That would piss them off. That there is nothing that makes them matter than when you speak back to them in a way that they understand. Because then again, guys, when I say how to speak socialist is a different language. It's not English. It's socialist. And they don't want you to know that they're speaking a different language. And you kind of like pull the curtain back and you go, I know you're speaking a different language, mother effers. And I'm going to speak it back to you because I'm already fluent in it. Ha ha, too bad, so sad. They hate it. They hate it. Yep, when engaging with socialists, always ask how they define capitalism. That pisses them off. And then you can go, it's private property, right? You define capitalism as private property ownership. You want to eliminate all private property. You want to eliminate people's houses and businesses and their families. And then they're going to say, no, silly human, you don't understand. There's a difference between personal property and private property. And then you go, no, bitch. No. I've heard you talk about children as private property. There was an article in New York Magazine written by a socialist where they were talking about children as private property. Are children considered private property or personal property? You're going to piss them off. Anyway, guys, that is all I have. Again, if you are on the Twitters, well, first off, make sure you follow Gabrielle Clark. Now, it looks like I'm not following her because I'm logged in under a sock account, but I do follow her on my main account, as everyone should, because if it wasn't for Gabrielle Clark, none of us would know about this story. She was the one that got it because she reached out to help the family. So make sure you're following her. Make sure you're sharing her stuff, okay? And of course, please make sure, not that one, we're going to talk about that another time. Please make sure that you're sharing this thread. Share this tweet, retweet it, tag people in it. I want to raise holy goddamn hell about this. Oh, man. Tag as many people as you want. Quote tweet it. I will retweet you if you quote tweet it. Get as many eyes on this as possible. And then remember where it came from when conservative influencers inevitably steal my journalism and claim they did it on their own. Because I didn't brand it or anything. I just wanted the story out. All right? Remember where you heard it. Remember where you heard it when none of them give me credit, because they won't. Goes against every fiber of their being. All right, guys, that is all I have for today. Thank you for hanging out. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Take care, guys.